Durthu looking absolutely spooky and fantastic today. I've got the extra cinematic cam because I am using the multiplayer mod by Clisson, the multiplayer UI mod, I should say. This is an excellent mod that can be used to analyze even replays fought without it, although if you're going to play a multiplayer battle with it, obviously you and your opponent both need to be subscribed to the mod, but today you can see we've got a replay from Sarmatian versus a Vicious Satsuma land battle with Wood Elves versus the Greenskins, two veterans of Total War Warhammer, facing off in a classic matchup. We've got Durthu leading the way with some Wildwood Rangers to back him up there in the woods. Spellsinger, Lore of Life as well. Let's quickly look at the spell loadouts. We've got Dwellers and Regrowth here. Durthu's coming in with just Flock of Doom for spells. He's also got Sword of Daith, of course. And then for the rest of the army, got some Hagbane tips here. A bunch of Dryads in the front line, including the Race of the Frozen Heart with their magical Frostbite. All Dryads do have magic damage, of course, but anyway, on the Greenskin side, Wurzag leading the way. We've got Forest Goblin Spider Rider, Archers, some Orc Boar Boys, more Spider Riders for melee. We've got some Stone Trolls here in the front line, some Orc Boys, Rusty Airs, and some Goblin Archers for nice cheap arrows, and some more Spider Riders and Boar Boys. So nice big Greenskins horde. Absolutely love it. And yeah, we can see here that this multiplayer UI mod displays WA, other army abilities. It will display Winds of Magic Reserve and the active Winds of Magic for both players. Shows their gold value remaining on the field, how much gold damage value they've done, which I think this value is slightly bugged sometimes, but we'll see how many of their entities have died and how many entities they've killed. All very useful stuff, especially in bigger team battles when you're trying to figure out who did what, or just generally forecasting. I do think I'm going to be using it for replays going forward because it seems to work just fine on replays fought on, quick battle without the mod or in tournaments or whatever. So anyway, getting to the battle at hand, we've got Dryads charging into the front line. Their better stats do mean they'll trade. They got a little bit of a buff with the Mortal Empires. They'll trade slightly better against Orc Boys, but obviously not with Trolls involved, with arrows and whatnot, but a nice little flank here through the woods by Sarmatian. The Wild Riders are going to come in and collapse with some Blade Riders as well, charging out some Goblins and just smashing them down. Dryads with a nice hammer and anvil into these Orc Boys. We're going to get a little bit of a Brain Burster there. No, that's Edbutt. Yeah, so Wurzag's rocking the AoE damage, and the Magic Missiles trying to spam as many cheap spells as possible to get that sweet map-wide melee attack buff with the Bonewood Staff. Also gives a little bit of charge bonus as well, but just generally better. The Greenskins perform better when they have melee attack buffs, who knew? And they do have access to a lot of them here in the woods. Unfortunately, the Greenskins are largely prevailing. I mean, they've taken down the Glade Riders, the Wildwood Rangers just barely getting into combat. Juan now has been popped. You saw it charging up there and full go, ready to burst. Greenskins just go for a huge power spike. Durthu also going to take significant missile damage here. And unsurprisingly, the Wood Elves largely get beat down in melee. They do kind of prevail out on this flank, though. Wild Riders and the Wardens of Kithral, Regiment of Renown, also managed to get into combat. They've got very good melee defense. I say very good. 45 is pretty decent. 59 attack. Armor Sundering, but nice Edbutt air there. They do have low armor. It does make them somewhat weak to that AoE magic damage. But anyway, Race of the Frozen Heart, Durthu pushing up through the center. In terms of damage done, yeah, we can see that Sarmatian's taken a lot more damage to his army. Winds of Magic wise, they're basically about the same. Wall's about halfway charged up, but yeah, the Wildwood Rangers fighting up here through the woods. Wild Riders also in kind of a pitched engagement. Orc Boys kind of grinding it out. We'll see. The engagement doesn't look great for the Wood Elves right now, but their leadership might help them carry. We'll check back on that in just a minute. Looks like Durthu got frozen there by an FG at a git as Stone Trolls continue to collapse in. Another Sword of Daith being used here. Of course, will do great damage and also debuffs the armor of everything, particularly the Stone Trolls. That will be nice for them. Well, not nice for them. It'll be great for the Dryads fighting them, though, as they'll be able to dish out some additional damage there. Not that Stone Trolls have a ton of armor, but definitely have enough that it makes a difference. Speaking of Armor Sundering, Rusty Arrows firing in here. doing some nice armor debuffing of Durthu. He's down to 80, even still, physical resistance, and 80 armor is enough to resist quite a bit of damage, but a lot of armor-piercing troops remaining here as well, although they are all kind of weak to terror to a degree. Wurzag is just kind of hanging out a little bit out of reach here, and Summation unfortunately doesn't have, like, any kind of missile tools to really effectively snipe him. I mean, you could try and maybe focus him with the Glade Riders a little bit here, but it's probably not going to be enough to actually finish him off. So, anyway, another big flock of doom going down here as the Dryads start to hang around. I mean, their leadership's okay. Looks like the Race of the Frozen Heart also going to get engaged there a little bit. But there's just a lot of Greenskins to try and get through. Very, very wide build here from this vicious Satsuma. If we take a look, I mean, he had not quite double, but a significant amount more troops than the Elves did here to start. Unsurprisingly, I mean, it kind of fits in with the theme of both factions, but Durthu is just such a force of nature, literally, no pun intended, that he might just be able to carry it in the late game. We'll see. Winds of Magic-wise, Summation does have enough to pop a regrowth on Durthu, which would probably be a good time to do so. He's definitely got enough in his active pool, and both players still have quite a bit of power reserve left, but once this power reserve starts to run out, then the Greenskins won't get quite so many buffs. They're also likely only to get one more Wah here, potentially, given how much it's charged up. I mean, maybe. I mean, yeah, there's still quite a bit of game left, potentially. We'll see. But Durthu there gets the regrowth. And that will not only heal him, but refresh his Vigor. Of course, Vigor also has an armor debuff. If I had one more UI request, I don't know if this is possible to do in this mod, or if this is something that Creative Assembly themselves would need to implement, but the Vigor, excuse me, the Vigor effects should definitely be shown on the unit card. They were in Troy, so I don't know why they didn't implement that for Total Warhammer 3. They implemented a lot of great ideas from Troy, but for whatever reason, that one didn't ever make the cut, and it's definitely something that should be in. But regardless, Vigor refresh on Durthu makes him all full and strong again, and wrecked, and you know, full of life. I mean, he's a tree after all. But he's pretty much all the Wood Elves have left. I mean, there's a handful of Blade Riders coming over to try and support here. Maybe if they can get some rear charges in key timings and areas, then they can route some of these units, and especially get some tear routes and start to shatter. More times the Greenskins route, right? They'll shatter after a certain number of times. I think it's 3. Even terror routing does count towards that. I want to say that's true. Don't 100% quote me on that, but should know these things by now. But there you go. I mean, Durthu does continue to hold. Wurzag also staying well out of range of Durthu himself, just not wanting to tangle in combat, obviously. Wurzag, fairly squishy, relies on his physical resistance, and all tree units deal magic damage, so definitely not great for him to just fight Durthu outright. But Durthu gets another quick regrowth just to top him up, and I mean, it's definitely not a bad call at this point. Durthu is kind of the main thing holding the Wood Elves together. If he can just grind through these Stone Trolls and whatever else is left, the Rusty Airs are definitely a problem, though. There's still 72 models here, and although the Armor Sundering, you might not think does a lot for the Stone Trolls, they still have 39 non-AP weapon damage, right? So carrying away some of that armor will help them do just that little bit of extra damage, and in a long game like this, every little bit can count at the end of the day. Another FG to the Git goes down there, just allowing the Rusty Airs to do some unopposed work. A little bit of a magic missile there from Wurzag as well, while the armor's down to do some extra damage. So really nice play by Vicious Satsuma, kind of timing and patience to hang on to those abilities. I probably would have blown them all already. But Winds of Magic-wise, Vicious Satsuma's getting towards the end. I will say, in terms of Winds of Magic cost, both of these, yeah, 5 and 4, so he's got about 4 spells left. 4 to 5 spells left, depending on what he chooses to cast. I guess if he goes all in on Gaze of Mork only, then he should have just enough, although, yeah, it can be hard to tell in the heat of battle, kind of with the fog of war and everything, which ones you should be casting. That being said, I mean, there's no multi-model units here left, pretty much, so there wouldn't be any reason for him to cast Edbutt anyway, right? Let's fast forward a little bit through this late game. It is nice to have this multiplayer UI mod, but again, Creative Assembly really should just implement this in the base game. I mean, given that a modder was able to, it doesn't seem like it should be that hard for Creative Assembly to implement it, or at the very least, just kind of merge the code base of the mod into the game. I don't know. I'm not a developer. I have no idea how difficult that would actually be, but certainly there could be some enhancements made. Besides this, I think this mod also changes the domination and the reinforcement panel, which also would apply to survival battles, actually, and any campaign battles where you have reinforcements as well. So let me know if any of you guys have tried this out, what you think in the comments down below. Let me know what you think in general about this cast, if you think it enhanced the cast, if you think it just distracted me and made the cast worse somehow. I mean, I highly doubt that. It is kind of interesting that when I go into cinematic cam, you don't still see the corner of it just here, the edge, which is kind of hilarious. It makes you realize, like, oh, they're just moving the UI out of the way. It's not actually hidden, per se. Like, it's just off-screen. I guess technically makes it hidden, but anyway. Durthu making his final stand as I ramble. Gonna get another Gazamork here from Wurzag, and Vicious Satsuma gonna cycle charge with Wurzag. This is pretty risky at this point, because if Durthu turns around and starts to get attacks, all he needs is like 1 or 2, but Durthu loses his leadership, and the Greenskins prevail. So big thanks to Summation, first of all, for posting a loss. Big thanks to... I want to make sure I get the mod author's name right. Clisson as well, and everyone else for putting together this multiplayer UI mod. Is definitely a great addition to the community. Normally UI or mods in general don't tend to make their way into multiplayer too much, just because, again, you need to like have everyone subscribed, and generally the balance is, I mean, say what you want about the vanilla balance, but mod balance is arguably sometimes even worse. I mean, sometimes it can be better, it's true, but yeah, just it's great to have this multiplayer mod and just to be able to enhance the viewing experience. I think it's great for me, like analyzing games and casting games, and helping out patrons and whatnot and other people to learn the game. It definitely helps to be able to see, like, okay, in this situation, your Winds of Magic should be doing this, or you've done a lot of army damage, or you're behind a little bit, and maybe this is how you can kind of claw back some of that value. It's very interesting, definitely, and it was interesting to see in this game, particularly with Wurzag, given that his, he wants to optimize for as many casts as he can get, more or less, to get as much uptime from Bonewood Staff, considering it's map-wide, right? So it's interesting to see that, and it definitely benefited Vicious Satsuma. Not that he was using the mod, not that the mod benefited him, but getting good value from Bonewood Staff definitely benefited him here big time, as did the archers. I mean, Goblin archers are just so cheap. Rusty Airs, super essential in a multitude of matchups, and they're definitely quite a unit in your toolkit for the Greenskins. On Wood Elves side, of course, Durthu's going to carry a heavy amount of value. I like the Wild Rider flank charges too, even if on the one side in the woods they kind of got caught up there in a lot of Greenskin stuff, but that's just kind of the way of things. When you take this many elite units and RORs and stuff, you're gonna run into a Greenskins 20 stack, and it could potentially be pretty tough. I know a lot of people have been advocating to me personally recently in voice chats and other discussions for 20 stack Wood Elves. I haven't really played Wood Elves enough to give you an informed opinion on that, but in late Warhammer 2, 20 stack Wood Elves was quite strong. So especially considering you have access to like Chillwind and some other really good spells from Dark Magic, for example, or even Lore of Life right now with Dwellers, I would think if you went with like a Min, Caster, Lord build with super wide Wood Elves army, that could be okay, but we'll see. We'll do some investigations on that, but big thanks anyway, Summation, for sending that one in. Certainly well played by him and Vicious Satsuma. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.